Hi friends, welcome to the NPTEL course Strategy and Technology, a Practical Primer. In this lecture, the 42nd in the series, the topic is Technology and Followership. In the previous two lectures, we focused on innovation and differentiation and considered certain generic strategies and approaches to make innovation and differentiation effective in the organization. This lecture reviews followership. Followers typically enter the market months or years after innovators and differentiators had their play in the market. They have the advantage of incorporating the natural improvements to technologies that are available in the marketplace. Followers who combine cost leadership with natural improvements lead market expansion and achieve healthier returns compared to only cost play followers. There are some success factors for followers, just as differentiators have their success factors. The success factors for a follower firm are execution capability and cost competitiveness. These must happen together with natural improvements so that the follower's positioning and growth can be achieved. Sources of improvement can be easily identified and accessed by observant followers from the broader technology and outsourcing supply base. Differentiations may seem to be the middle ground between high-resource companies trying to do innovation and low-resource companies trying to do followership. However, as I said earlier, differentiation is closer to innovation, whereas followership is much broader, easy to follow route for most companies. The difference between innovation and followership is the time-consuming nature of the endeavor. It is, of course, one of the important differences, though not all the difference by itself. Time-consuming nature of innovation is because of the complexity of discovering something, developing a new product for the first time in the market. Drug firms take years and in some cases even more than a decade to discover and develop a new drug. Once cleared, the drugs make unique contributions to healthcare. Therefore, innovation is worthwhile. Google, with internet software as its core business, has been working for several years to develop its version of self-driving capability for a car that would be human independent. We are yet to see the Google autonomous car coming into the market. It has taken years. Tesla, with automobiles as its core business, has also been trying over the last few years to accelerate its competitive development of autopilot for the model of cars that it has. But still it has faced a setback or two, and autonomous cars from Tesla are not as commonplace as electric cars from Tesla. Competing on innovation, therefore, has its compulsions as well as challenges. As a result, only a few companies tread the innovation path, and most firms seek the easy route of followership. And between these two, we have differentiation, as we discussed. As the above examples demonstrate, innovation takes several years and even decades in certain cases to fructify in terms of commercially successful products or services. Innovation helps create new industries around pioneering products. If there were to be no innovation at all, it is difficult to imagine how society would be developing with the help of new products and services, and how differentiators would exist and how even followers would exist. So innovators are the essential nucleus for industrial development and social development. I talked about followership having two important criteria. One is improvement and the other is cost leadership. Improvement acts as an edge to followership. It would be natural and tempting for most firms to follow the pioneers and exploit the emerging market potential whenever the legal system permits. But it is certainly easy but not necessarily remunerative to focus only on followership rather than innovation or differentiation. Followership typically happens with a lag to either pioneering or differentiation by others. That is, it cannot happen simultaneously. You can plan to do things, but then that would be a waste of resources because a follower company already is resource strapped. The period of lag is dependent on the intellectual property protection or other barriers to entry. This provides an unexpected advantage to the followers to leverage the natural technological developments or learn from the shortcomings of the innovators and differentiators. Somebody who would copy a camera that has been patented would have the advantage 20 years later of using the latest developments in terms of the camera sensors which are available off the shelf. Although a follower is a replica of the product originally designed, by the time the followership starts, there would be several improvements which will make the product up to date. The only thing which is standing in favor of innovation is that fundamental concept is the one which has brought the innovation to the marketplace and therefore has a monopoly position in the hearts and minds of the consumers. At a conceptual level, therefore, even followers get some scope to be different and improved, even while following the paths of innovators and differentiators. For this, the corporate leaders must focus on natural improvements to be incorporated. Just because the innovator product had a certain specification, it need not be that the follower product also should have the same specification. To make things very clear, suppose the innovator product had plastic casing, and today metal casings with much better finishes are available off the shelf. In such a case, just because it's costlier, the leader should not stop using the metal case because that provides better finish and makes the follower product more differentiated with reference to the innovator product. So whatever needs to be done can be done easily without excessive investment should be taken into account by the leaders who manage improvement. We will therefore look at this relevance, that is the relevance of natural technological improvement and how it can add sheen to the follower competitive strategy. The broader base of technological development in an industry certainly provides that scope of improvement, even if they are focused only on followership. Let's see how it works. Innovation has different shades. In popular parlance, anything which is novel in parts or as a whole is viewed as innovative. A few more examples of innovation, diversification and improvement are cited below. Suppose we are converting an invasive test such as measuring blood glucose by the prick method to a non-invasive one such as a sweat touch method for the first time. It becomes an innovation. If the non-invasive test of this product or this innovator has a variance of plus or minus 10% in accuracy, but another company develops a way of doing it with variance of only 5%, it is a differentiated product. An improved product, on the other hand, may only improve upon either the innovator product or the differentiated product on non-core aspects like display or alarms, leaving the core measurement capability untouched. So innovation needs to be viewed as a fundamentally different way of fulfilling a customer need. That is with reference to the conversion of invasive test into a non-invasive test. Differentiation is a superior way of fulfilling the customer need vis-a-vis the innovator. Follower clones an innovator or a differentiator product years later. Certain improvements become natural just by the efflux of time. There are no hard and fast rules for distinguishing between innovation and differentiation on one hand and differentiation and improvement on the other. The above examples certainly provide reasonable guidance because innovation has fundamental discovery, differentiation has smart superiority, whereas an improved product just takes into account whatever is available as improvements in the industrial landscape. What is cloning? Cloning is doing something as an exact replica of the product that is already available. With time, it is possible for followers to take the benefits of improvement in the component technologies and incorporate them in the cloned innovator or differentiated products. We have a cloned iPhone charger which is made by a follower company. While it is inferior to the original accessory in terms of charging efficiency, the follower incorporated a blue LED light to indicate charging, which may be considered an improvement. It may be minor, but is an improvement. Understanding that blue light disturbs sleep in the night, the next improvement was in terms of ebbing out the blue light in darkness or when there was no movement. So from an exact replica to a blue light indicator to ebbing out of the blue light has been a continuous improvement that has been possible because such technological developments were available in the marketplace. Reducing the noise of the automotive exhaust with better mufflers, improving the shutter speed of a camera, enhancing the speed of drying of a printed ink, or enhancing the scratch resistance of glass, and such other improvements are time-titrated natural occurrences. Where you draw the line between such improvements and differentiation is a challenge that needs to be explored and solved. If you have a situation by which a washer dryer completely dries, then it's a differentiation, because the customer would be able to save as much as 50,000 rupees on a new separate dryer. Point number 1. Point number 2, it ensures that there is no space wastage by having additional dryer installed. And point number 3, everything is done in one package. So there is no additional human effort involved in terms of taking things out. But if the separate dryer is still required and there is only an improvement in terms of the drying time, it could be seen as an improvement. And that improvement comes because the energy generators in the drying machine are now available with greater efficiency, and rotational capabilities of the drums have also improved over time. So these would be seen as improvements. But dryer itself, when it was first discovered or when it was first invented, is a fundamental innovation. Followership can be defined as the phenomenon of several firms in an industry following simultaneously a set of corporate strategies to address a market opportunity that is same or exactly like the pioneers in the industry. And that is done with products that clone the innovator or differentiated products. So there are some conditions to followership. 1, a number of companies should enter the industry. 2, they should act simultaneously. 3, they should have a set of corporate strategies which address the same market opportunity. And that market opportunity should be same or like that of the pioneer in the industry. And the products should be the innovators or differentiated product duly cloned. So these are the principles which are involved in followership. And this is best illustrated with the help of 2 examples. The strategy is followed by a host of new passenger car manufacturers in India, such as GM, Ford, Honda, and Mitsubishi, to address the mid-size sedan market with an import-led assembly strategy represent followership. Companies have looked at Maruti Suzuki and the indigenization, localization strategies followed, and they felt that it was not going to help. But they also saw that in the beginning, Maruti Suzuki has had an import-led strategy. Quickly, they followed their own import-led strategies and entered the market. This is a followership approach. Similarly, when Indian pharmaceutical companies wanted to the US generics market, everybody had a mix of strategies. 1, introduce the product as an exact clone after the patent expiry, or if the technological ability to innovate existed to some extent, file it as a para 4 opportunity without infringing the patent, undergo the legal challenge process, and innovate to enter in that particular business segment. There is no fundamental change in the product structure nor its delivery. Only on the basis of a technicality in the patent or the patent not being sufficiently sustainable, the company has been able to challenge that and introduce the product and gain some exclusivity of 6 months, which provided higher pricing power for such companies. So followership is of that nature. The drivers for followership are almost inevitably are the opening up of a huge market on one hand and the initial success of a pioneer company in the product market space on the other. There are 2 levers. 1, huge markets gets opened up the moment followers enter, and that happens because that market is sustainable. The pioneer has opened up the market and proved the product, therefore that market is sustainable. These are the 2 conditions of followership and why it attracts so much of competition. In practice, however, followership tempts the players to follow strategies for short-term results, and it leads eventually to less than optimal results. Not every follower tries to incorporate the best possible improvements within the space available. So fundamentally, everybody tries to do copycat. companies try to compete on price rather than on the product offering. Secondly, they look for only limited market space. They merely trail the pioneer on its path and end up competing in a limited market space, including the innovator's market space. Thirdly, because many companies simultaneously enter the market, they fragment the market. Fragmentation of the market and drive down of industry returns characterize the aftermath of such followership. And finally, because corporate followership tends to be a herd instinct, there will be a mindless pursuit for market share, quick presence, and that leads to painful consolidation of a suboptimal industry structure through exits, partial or full divestitures, acquisitions, and mergers of companies. In order to soften the accompanying ill effects, follower firms must do something which is different, and that something is incorporation of the natural improvements. A new generation of machine tools can provide better machining finishes, and newer paints can provide better protection and textures, as an example. And this will be able to distinguish followers from complete copycats. Improvement considers the pioneer's initial success as a directional trend rather than as a strategic template. It doesn't consider that only that way is the only way to win in the marketplace. When Maruti Suzuki introduced its first ever small car in the 1980s, it has been a pioneer's action. It was an industry dominated by highly dated designs of 1940s, and in a pioneering manner, Maruti Suzuki opened up that market. But introduction of a tall boy small car, Santro, by Hyundai in the 1990s, a good many years thereafter, has been an example of strategic improvement. It is not total differentiation, however, because it is meant for the same kind of customers who were handling Maruti 800cc. The looks are different because by the time Hyundai introduced in the 1990s, a full 10 years later, the design languages changed. The way the components were developed were changed. The lighting systems were more superior at that point of time. The lighting systems were superior in the 1990s compared to the 1980s. Therefore, there was a natural improvement that was possible to be incorporated by Hyundai in its small car design. Firms seeking to follow competitive improvement must spend considerable time analyzing the product market space and the factors that influence the evolution of the industry. They should not simply adopt a quick fix solution of replicating the pioneer's strategy. The initial triggers for improvement are the same as the drivers for followership, that is market space and pioneer success. However, for competitive improvement, we need to have drivers which are totally different. And those are tending towards innovation and differentiation if we see closely. There are two verticals here. One, firms following only followership, and second, firms following followership with improvement. Firms which follow blind followership provide a choice amongst exactly same products. Such firms can score only based on better execution on fronts such as cost, delivery, and probably quality. But firms which combine followership with improvement are able to do a few things better. They deploy natural improvement strategies. Therefore, the growth is based on certain positive features of their products and their market positioning and not necessarily on price. And as improvers lay out their own distinctive paths, they also contribute to opening up of several new product market segments. Competitive improvement results in expansion of market space, provides healthier returns in the overall compared to followers with just cost advantage. An improver firm has the advantages of utilizing the market that is opened up by the innovators, a market that is further expanded by the differentiators, and achieving a share based on price advantage of followership and securing better positioning through the improved features. Firms pursuing followership with improvement perform better than firms pursuing only followership. Therefore, improvement must be taken as an integral part of good followership. We have looked at innovation, we have looked at differentiation, we have looked at followership. Let's try to compare these three. Improvement provides a sustainability support for followership. Spec-to-spec cloning probably is not possible anymore even for followers, because simply those specs may not be available. The new generation specs are already in the marketplace. Therefore, improvement is an independent but inevitable part of getting into the follower strategy. But if we see every strategy at its optimum, and if we want to compare these, we have these 5 core attributes. The core concept for innovation, it is the first to design and first to market. That is, this product or service that is designed by an innovator company should be first in its class, and it should be reaching marketplace ahead of anybody else. That is the concept of innovation. In the concept of differentiation, the design will be best in class, that is best in design, and it should be better in market in terms of the customer perception. And that happens in many cases when the feature is better for the consumer than the feature offered by the innovator. In followership, the core concept is copy the design and improve the attributes. Key strategy of innovator is fundamental discovery. Key strategy of differentiator is attribute superiority, and that of the follower is cost leadership. Key success factors: research superiority in respect of innovator, product market rematch in respect of differentiator, and execution superiority in respect of followership. When we talk about execution superiority, we are talking about everything compressed in terms of the time frame, because time is money. You produce more in a lower unit of time, you substitute in a better manner the fixed costs over a larger base. If you are able to do a product quickly, you can expand your demand base. So there are execution superiority features that are in part operational excellence features. While nothing prevents a differentiator and an innovator to follow the operational excellence principles, they would not be able to match operational excellence in terms of combining diversity with lean or flexible manufacturing systems with lean operations. That they would find it difficult to do. Whereas a follower doesn't have too much of diversity to handle. Therefore, the throughputs are going to be higher. But at the same time, the follower should have the ability to tightly compress the costs so that even at very low margins, the company will remain profitable. Key functional drivers for innovation: obviously research and development. For differentiation, product development. Product development is superior development of the innovated product. For followership, it is in terms of sales and in terms of manufacturing. The end game or end plan for innovation is market monopoly with high returns. For differentiation, market segmentation with healthy returns, both above industry average. Whereas for followership, the end would be more in terms of fragmentation of the market and the returns would be low. Among the 5 core attributes which I have highlighted, strategic creativity and functional competencies constitute the drivers for the direction which a firm can take. The key success factors must be understood and targeted a priori. The core concept represents the overarching aspiration, and the end plan is the sustainable result. So when you have this strategic clarity about what constitutes innovation, what drives innovation, similarly, what constitutes and drives differentiation followership, we will be able to have a mix of strategies depending upon what the market needs and depending upon what we think are the strategic imperatives for the company. A firm that follows the strategy of follower improvement has the pioneer or differentiator in terms of the nuts and bolts of the strategy, but seeks improvement based on product refinement within its capacity. For an innovator firm, as I said, it is research superiority. For the differentiator, the capability to position in the market differentially by fulfilling a customer need better with an improved product feature. And for the follower firm, execution capability. We need to have this in mind. Research capability versus enhancement capability versus execution capability. These are the 3 differentiators. These are the 3 accompanying factors for the innovators, differentiators and followers. However, as I said, operation excellence can be very much applicable for innovators as well as differentiators. We can have execution superiority in respect of innovators as well as differentiators. But the difference is that by definition, innovation cannot be done in a jiffy, and by definition, differentiation also cannot be carried out in a jiffy. They all require their resources and time factors. Compared to them, the follower has the time on its side in terms of agility as a strategy that can be followed, because everything about the product is known, quality is standardized, processes are standardized, so you can go hammer and tongs to get the best possible productivity. Flawless execution, of course, is a philosophy that must permeate all types of companies, but relentless execution is something which a follower firm does as the firm pursues a scale which is much higher than the innovator firm's scale or the differentiator firm's scale. Let's look at where the sources of improvement will come from. Fundamentally, it comes from design, includes materials and finishes. Automobile industry is well known for simple design tweaks that improve their products periodically. A touch here and there, a different curvature of the sheet metal panel, a smiling headlamp systems or a smiling front fascia, a redesigned dashboard, different color schemes. These kinds of things keep happening every year in the automobile industry in terms of the design of automobiles, and therefore design is a source of technological improvement. When you have rain sensing wipers, fog lamps and reverse cameras, you can incorporate better driving, better parking in the car. These are improvements. Similarly, the quality of materials, especially plastics and the interior finishes, go a long way in positioning an automobile in a better fashion. We will get better benefits from manufacturing, including productivity and quality, because manufacturing contributes to cost leadership as well as product improvement. Flexible manufacturing systems with digital controls enables a company make more number of products with better productivity and higher quality. Marketing, including distribution, sales, services, is very important because packaging and logistics form a helpful combination for improvement. Lighter packaging helps better carriage of goods. If you are able to ship more products, then the unit cost of transportation comes down. Safer transport enables simpler packaging of the goods, and because of that, lower defects or lower returns. Simple improvements that have been mentioned above represent great value to the consumer when they are all bundled together and they happen together. The control over design, manufacturing and marketing, with or without ownership control, determines the scope and effectiveness of the improvements. Again, we can go back to what we discussed earlier of co-development, co-integration, co-expansion, so that all these improvements are present in a product through collaborative effort. Technological improvements can help follower firms achieve a tactical entry into a marketplace. But in order to assume the improver play, firms must invest in certain generic capabilities. The first is infrastructure and capacity. One must have control over the basic value chain so that the productivity improvements, quality improvements can be better handled. There must be a strong balance sheet because the company runs on very low margins. It is important to have a prudentially developed and managed balance sheet so that even if there is an aberration, the company is able to be resilient. It also helps in raising of funds for specific improvement projects. Information technology will play a major part in getting better project and program management in the improving companies, and people should be well trained. The experience curve, the learning curve must act to the benefit of the cost curve. Employees from different functions who are trained to have an eye for the detail and passion for continuous improvement can help integrate technological improvements in a cost leader company or in a follower company. The generic pharmaceutical division of the Indian pharmaceutical industry is a great example of the follower improver firm. Different manufacturers offer the exact clone of the product, but they are able to offer them with several improvements around the project and the product. We now have a case study on MicroLED. It is a kind of television display which has come into prominence in recent years. Television displays have been of several types: CRT, that is cathode ray tube, LCD, plasma, LED, OLED, and MLED. CRT was innovated in 1934 for televisions by Telefunken Germany. Then LCD and plasma came into being with innovations from both Japanese and US companies. LED came into being in 1968, but it didn't come into mainstream TV display panels until recently. Even before LED took charge, OLED emerged in 2008 and started occupying the main space. But in recent years, MicroLED is promising to be the ultimate, as of now, of television displays. MicroLED itself has been in circulation from 2012 onwards. The fact that between 1964 and 2012, so many TV display technologies came into being through inventions, but also took a lot of time to get introduced into the mainstream televisions or to get superseded by the next generation, is indicative of the fact that innovation, differentiation, and followership with improvement do exist within the same industrial segment, and different parameters work to influence which strategy is the better one at which point of time. The secular movement to the highest level of technology obviously is there, but during that journey, innovation takes its place, differentiation also takes its place. Samsung and Sony are the leaders in MicroLED technology as a replacement to OLED. MicroLED uses millions of tiny individually addressable LED. Therefore, it promises to rival the picture quality of OLED, which is the current champion, but with much better brightness and lower chance of burning. At the virtual CES 2021, Samsung showed off a 156,000 110-inch TV and promised to follow it up with 88 and 99 inches display. Sony's version of MicroLED, Crystal LED, is currently marketed commercially and allows massive wall-sized screens. The technology is also used in smart glasses to project images such as your personal heads-up display. This is a graphic which compares TFT LCD, OLED, and MicroLED. In TFT LCD, the electric circuit is the setup at the liquid crystal layer of TFT LCD that would trigger transfer of molecules, which coupled with color filters and backlight source endows each pixel with three original colors, red, blue, and green, whose mixture creates light in various colors. In OLED, triggered by electric current, OLED can emit light in various colors by mixing red, blue, and green light from its organic thin film. This is more vivid than common LCD screens. MicroLED goes one step further. It features miniature LED arrays with each MicroLED functioning as a pixel and can be driven to emit light. Therefore, MicroLEDs are called self-emitting displays. With modules becoming smaller, brighter image quality and response speed improve. When you compare TFT LCD, OLED and MicroLED, you will find that MicroLED scores significantly over all other TV displays in terms of the power consumption, brightness, efficiency, lifespan, contrast, and response time. Only cost is higher. But as we know of disruptive innovation, whenever a disruptive innovation starts getting introduced, the cost will be higher, and eventually with manufacturing efficiencies and development efficiencies, the cost will come down and the disruptive innovation would become the mainstream innovation. This has been the trend that happened with OLED and is likely to happen with MicroLED as well. You can see the size difference between traditional LEDs and MicroLEDs. They are smaller. They are about 1/100th of an LED. MicroLED and Mini LED constitute the new technology, but Mini LED is an evolution of the current LCD TV technology. Even though it uses more and smaller LEDs as part of the backlight, an LCD panel is still used to create an image. But with MicroLEDs, the LEDs themselves create the image. That is the big difference between mini LED, which is currently being used, and the micro LEDs that are getting to be used. The picture shown here is composed of many individually composed LEDs, which makes it more look like how OLED works. Micro LED TVs are very expensive now, but can get cheaper in the coming times. A closer look of micro LED making an image looks like that. It is made up of millions of micro LEDs, therefore the manufacturing complexity is higher, and it is the tinier version of what is in the current LCD TV. It has newer flashlights, light bulbs, and other myriad devices using this kind of light. Even though the process sounds simple, there are several challenges and it is harder than it sounds. The same is explained in the next slide. When LEDs are shrunk, as is required in micro LED, the total amount of light they produce goes down. So the technology must be driven harder, or the efficiency must be improved, or both. And driving them harder consumes lots of electricity and dissipates more heat. Shrinking the gap between pixels can cause the circuitry to get very small. So if a manufacturer wants to make a profit on this new technology, it needs something easy to make the micro LED in the 60-inch range or smaller, along with the bigger areas. The challenge is that the potential positives of micro LEDs are numerous. Brighter images than OLED, but with the same ability to turn off each pixel for a similarly perfect black. This would mean more realistic image than OLED. And micro LED comes with modularity in terms of the size of the displays. For example, say a 50-inch TV has 10 modules with around 830,000 pixels on each module. Putting more of these same modules together, a company could sell an 8K 100-inch TV for essentially no disproportionate escalation in production cost. This simplifies things a bit. With the right processing, it wouldn't matter if the TV is exactly 4K resolution or if it is 5327 into 2997 or 8000 to 4500 pixels. If the dream is a wall-size display with 10K resolution, this could be the way to get it. With work from home, remote working and online education becoming universal, the benefit of such extra large displays is self-evident. With micro LED, the other advantage is that it is possible to have different shapes and sizes with high resolution video displays. It is no longer a fixed display that OLED ordains us to have now. The future of micro LED is bright. Samsung was the first company to bring micro LED to consumer market. LG and TCL are working on the technology too. Sony's version of micro LED has been around since 2012 and there are two different models for the commercial market. Apple is using OLED displays, as we know, for its high-end iPhones and Apple Watch, and is developing its own in-house micro LED display for cell phones. Vuzix, the next generation smart glasses, are using micro LED projectors embedded in the frames to project images onto the specially etched surface of the lenses. So many developments in consumer electronics, audiovisual equipment, and in smart wearables are going to be based on micro LED as we go forward. Even today, it is possible to buy a micro LED TV provided we are willing to put 150,000 on table to be able to buy. We should remember, not long ago, OLED was a far-off future technology, but today it is the mainstream technology because costs have reduced. The same analogy will work with micro LED as well. So it was innovation that was available from 2012, continually getting worked on by leaders and differentiated with other aspects, and today it is ready to be mainstream. That is how innovation, differentiation, and followership work in a complex industrial environment. Canon Toki collaborated with Samsung Display to become the number one vendor in small and medium-sized OLEDs. It supplied the 6th generation half-cut deposition equipment. It also developed OLED mass production system way back in 1999. Therefore, the fundamental technologies are available, but those technologies getting deployed in commercial consumer electronics devices took time. These are some other examples of how innovation takes time for diffusion. Differentiation occurred in this way. LCD itself has quantum definition, dual cell LCD, 8K, and now mini LED with LCD back panel. Emission controlled, that is self-emitting LEDs or MicroLED, OLED, emissive QD, QD OLED, IJP OLED. These are all differentiators for the two branches of technology called LCD and self-emitting displays, both of them being the fundamental innovations of that nature. The innovation drivers and context is that there is too much at stake in terms of the display technology. Companies have to master this technology, perfect the art of manufacturing, the science of manufacturing, and most importantly, bring down the cost so that the consumers can benefit with the new architecture. There is a 6-factor approach for determining which technologies will succeed. 1. Price points. 2. Supply ability. 3. Industry leadership. Who will enter the industry first and dominate the industry? Brand support. That is how you can build a brand around this new technology. Capital intensity and component cost. And finally, technology maturity. Every major invention with further differentiation follows this particular pathway of 6-factor approach for determining which technologies will succeed. When you look at the 6-factor approach applied to the current television screen technologies, as of now, the top tier winners are QDEF films and KSF phosphor-enriched backlight system. QD OLED is going to come as an improvement over OLED. Mini LED also will become an impressive TV technology because of the high contrast. Micro LED probably will be the ultimate display that would be taking center stage once the cost equation is mastered. Companies such as Apple are likely to stimulate a broader introduction of micro LED technology over a wide range of devices. Therefore, there will be these kinds of developments taking place. Lot of innovation, lot of invention, and lot of differentiation too. And there will be fast followers coming up with improvements. And there will be also core technologies such as oxide backplanes mobility and stability, and they being the technologies of choice for larger micro LED displays. You can also look at how these 6 factors vary for different TV display technologies. I have listed in vertical basis the different types of technologies and the 6 factors which we discussed in terms of the horizontal dimension. You can see that there are big brands which are involved in this technology, and companies are willing to make simultaneous bets on different types of innovations, different types of inventions, and different types of differentiations. When the technology is first discovered, it is innovation. But when it is put onto a device, it is invention. Once it is improved further to get the features different, it becomes differentiation. And when somebody follows it up, it is followership with improvement. All, of course, based on the patentability of different features that are being offered. This is how innovation, differentiation, and followership with improvement work together in a major industrial segment where the development is very important, but cost is also important for it to occupy the center stage. With this, we come to the end of this lecture. We will meet in the next lecture.